Hey there, fellow adult collectors. Welcome back. David Eon down in the museum, as you can see. And today, we are taking a look at the heroes of the American Revolution action figure series, which I do have the entire series. There's only 7 of them. There they are all down there, lined up in a row. Heroes of the American Revolution. Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, John Paul Jones, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Nathan Hale, and Patrick Henry are who was selected for this series. And they are Mego-like, if you will. That is referring to action figures that have the basic design of classic 8-inch Mego figures, although I kind of beg to differ a little bit in the construction of the figure itself. It looks Mego-like, and they are mixed media. As a matter of fact, the media is the highest quality part of these figures, and they are the same size. Here is a classic, an original Mego Kirk for size comparison. So they are roughly 8 inches tall, but they are not jointed the same as a Mego. The construction on these figures is actually pretty flimsy, and a lot of corners were cut, which you can already tell just from looking at the sculpt. I mean, vintage Mego sculpts aren't the best anyways. It barely resembles William Shatner there, but I'm sure that doesn't look anything like Paul Revere. They really cut corners, or Benjamin Franklin, who has some glare, but I'll give you a better look at him in a moment. Plus, they don't have the same articulation at all. They're essentially like doll bodies. I think there's 6 points of articulation, hips, shoulders, a turning point at the waist, and then the neck. Let me get Kirk out of there. Come on, Kirk. But these were made in 1975, and there is some confusion about when these were manufactured, believe it or not. Especially on eBay for some reason. I guess because there's no date on the package and no one wants to bother to do the research. Funny that, eBay, people not wanting to do research, I can hardly imagine. But they don't. They don't research it. These were made in 1975. Some people think they're from the 80s. And it could very well be that some of these were still hanging around in the 80s because they were notorious shelf warmers. These were not big sellers. And that makes sense because, you know, back in the days when toys were manufactured for kids, not adults, how many kids wanted to play with Benjamin Franklin, for example? Very few, I imagine. But they were sold in 1975 by Montgomery Ward. They were sold in 1975 by Montgomery Ward. And I think this one still has the price tag on it. There it is. Montgomery Ward, $1.99. There is your price. $1.99 was the original retail cost of these action figures. And they were released in 1975 in lieu of the Spirit of '76. And for those of you who were not alive at that time or don't remember, perhaps, 1976 was a very big deal in the United States because it was the official 200th birthday of America. Here's John Paul Jones, the Fighting Sailor. The only naval captain during the Revolutionary War, if I remember correctly. And again, the figures are kind of crappy, but the detail and the costuming is outstanding. And this Patrick Henry right here, I could totally see someone buying this and stripping him and making a Tremaine, did I pronounce that right, from Star Trek, the original Star Trek series. You could even rework that head mold, actually. But I'm going to open a couple of these. These are not sealed. They weren't sold sealed. So I'm going to open a couple of these and you can take a close look at the detail of the costuming. That's where all the money went with these. They certainly didn't go into the packaging or the sculpting of the figure itself. Although that hat leaves a lot to be desired, I'll tell you. But I like them. I think they're pretty cool. I like obscure action figures and action figure lines. And these aren't too expensive for having been produced in 1975. If you wanted a set of these in really exceptional mint and boxed condition, I couldn't imagine paying more than $25 a piece for them. Frequently I've seen them sold as complete sets for less than that, because you know it's cheaper to buy in lots than it is to buy individual items of anything. I'm sure a lot of you have figured that out by now. George Washington? Kind of. Again, rudimentary head sculpts, very limited jointing. And I believe these are blown plastic too, which means they're hollow bodies. Look at the cut on that hand. The mold breaking, I mean. It's just so poorly done. That's Hong Kong for you. Manufactured in Hong Kong by RT. RT. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Roth, which was a toy company in the 70s. If someone knows better than that, feel free to post it in the comment section down below. You know, I'm just talking off the top of my head here. I don't rehearse this. I think it was Roth. RT is Roth. But like I said, maybe you know better and you can tell me. Nathan Hale. And that's a better head sculpt. And once again, a lot of detail to the costume. So I could totally see someone buying these loose, really cheap, because they're not much loose at all. And stripping these costume down to Kit Bash, other Megos perhaps, or some other figure. Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. Patrick Henry. I think he has a hat floating around in there. I could be wrong. Let me see. Is there a hat in there, Patrick? No, I guess not. No hat for Patrick. Well, since I got him out, let's turn this around and take a look at the back of the packaging. And every single one of these have the exact same back. And all it is a lineup of the other figures that are in this set. A photograph of the other figures. So really no box art. And you know I'm a big fan of decent box art. And these are pretty plain. But let's take a couple of these over to the table and open them up, because again they are not sealed. They're not taped or anything. And we will see just how detailed that costuming is. Okay, so here we are over at the table, and I pulled out a couple just to examine, and I have John Paul Jones and George Washington sitting here. Without taking them off of the backing card, just take a look, and this is very light. This is a light figure. As I pointed out, it's hollow plastic, kind of doll body. You can feel how light that is. And bends at the hips, shoulders. See, there's no elbow joint. Head turns, and I believe, like I said, there's a waist pivot as well. So very rudimentary. And the tricorn hat, to me, just doesn't work. It's too bulky. This is too bulky. It doesn't look right. The rest of the costume, though, is actually really well done. this is a thick material. The shirt and the slacks, the pants, knickerbockers or whatever he's wearing here, are nylon and thin. I mean, you can even kind of see the skin tone coming through there. But the jacket and the vest are pretty thick. And everything is all separate pieces. Pants, shirt, full-length sleeves. These are the cuffs to the sleeves. It runs all the way through. Vest, jacket, shoes, socks, everything is all removable. Even the tie comes off. And this is thick and has a lining. And where's the stitch mark, folks? That's good quality stitching for 1975. They did a great job on this. Snaps instead of Velcro. All the clothing comes off, like I said. If you had other Megos and you wanted to buy these loose cheap, you could totally kit bash with these costumes and do whatever you wanted to do. Like I said, suggestion I had made, Tremaine from the original Star Trek was kind of dressed in this style of clothing, or, you know, whatever you wanted to do. But, you know, hollow, cheaply done dolly body, and I mean, you can even see how badly that mold break is there. George Washington, who got a much better costume. This is really thick. The pants, the vest, see the stitching. It's a snap closure. Full-length sleeves on the shirt. The shirt's kind of flimsy, but you know. He's got his tie here, or that would be a dickie. This is pretty well done. Pretty well done costume. Cuffs, and he's wearing boots. I don't know if he has socks on under that. Again, very interesting. And affordable if you're into vintage action figures and don't think you can afford them because of some of the crazy prices you've seen on, say, G.I. Joe or Ninja Turtles or something, or Masters of the Universe. There are a lot of vintage toys and action figures out there that don't cost a lot. They just really don't. And you're fooling yourself. I almost dropped it. It's so light. You're fooling yourself if you're spending a fortune on new stuff thinking it's cheaper than some of the old stuff. Because with a few exceptions, like I said, there are some exceptions, G.I. Joe, Transformers, whatever. Most of this stuff isn't that expensive by comparison. And has an established value. And that's my spiel. I'll leave it at that. You can make your own decisions. Any thoughts on these? What do you think of these figures? Have you ever seen these before? Did you know what they were? Does this look like something you'd be interested in as a collector of vintage action figures, or it's just not in your wheelhouse? I know LPH laughed at me when I got these. She was like, why did you buy those? Why not? They're kind of neat, actually. I think they are. But again, like I had pointed out, they were serious shelf warmers back in the day. Here's a closer look at the Paul Revere. Who got his participation in the famous ride exaggerated because of that poem. Again, look at the detail to the stitching on this lining. It's just very well done. I'm really more blown away by the costuming than anything else. By the soft goods mixed media. It's even kind of got a texture to it and two-tone, as you can see. That's really neat. The head mold looks terrible, but The outfits are great. These are really nice. Take a look at Thomas Jefferson. Pull Thomas out here. Again, the hat looks absolutely pathetic. This is just gigantic and silly looking. But the rest of the outfit is pretty interesting. And this one is really thick. And then he's got the boots with the tassels on it. This is a softer vest, but it's still thick, and you can barely see the stitch line in there because it's got a lining also. Full-length shirt, sleeves, although these cuffs are pretty big, so it's hard to see. What do you think of these? Is this something that you would want? Would you put this in your collection? Nathan Hale here. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Tell me what you think of these figures. It looks like he's got hockey socks on under the boots. Those boots actually look modern. It says Hong Kong on the side of the boot. That boot looks like it belongs on a modern action figure. They must have adapted that boot from something else. It doesn't look right at all. It doesn't fit. But the socks just kind of caught my attention. And an actual tie. It goes all the way around. Someone ought to show that to Mezco. Seriously now. That's just really well done. I think it's well done. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Tell me what you think of this series. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got something out of it. I hope that you did. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. May as well open up the rest of them. I've already gone and done half of them anyway. Here's Patrick Henry. Real tie, turtleneck, big overcoat, and then the purple slacks and socks. Although his socks are dark. These are thick too. The socks on this one are thick. They're not thin like the other ones. Interesting. That head sculpt's not too bad either. It's better than the other ones. Please do check out some of the other videos. See some of the... Take a look at some of the other showcases that we've done, maybe, of vintage figures or unboxings of modern figures, or maybe you'll be interested in some of our toy discussions. Now that I've made a mess here. Who's left? Wow, there's actually a couple. I already opened the George Washington, and I already opened the John Paul Jones. I guess that just leaves Benjamin Franklin, unless I missed somebody. So here is Ben Franklin. They didn't do a good job painting his hair. He's got his Dickie or ascot or whatever you want to call it, and orange vest, the jacket, full-length sleeves, thick pants. These socks are kind of thin. But you know, for $1.99 at the time period, it's not bad at all. And that odd stitching is because of the buttons on the coat. See how it kind of jumps? That's the stitching for the lining through here, which still isn't bad. And then this stitching for the coat buttons. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. Maybe you've never seen these before, or maybe you have seen them and you were curious. So thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.